Hi, I'm Upwards, and welcome to another day in the life with me, and today with the iPhone XS Max. So let's talk about why I think the iPhone XS Max is worth considering, but first I have to find my keys. Let's take a look. First of all, the iPhone XS Max has a 6.5-inch OLED display, which even looks really good in 2024. And along with the 6.5-inch OLED display, it also comes with an A12 bionic chip, which is even faster than some mid-range phones being released today, and a dual camera setup, which still looks pretty good even in 2024. And with iOS 18 coming to the iPhone XS Max, this means that this phone is still going to be supported for at least another year, which means that we're going to get some of those cool features that were introduced at WWDC onto the iPhone XS Max. And finally, it's an iPhone, which makes this a very popular value choice, especially when you know that you're going to get some really good hardware, some really good design, and of course, you're going to get the OLED reliability of iOS. But again, this is an old phone, being released in 2018. So in today's day in the life, I'm going to be testing out the performance, the cameras, the display, and most importantly, the battery life to see if it can still hold up in 2024. Now, the phone that I have here is the used model, which means it has 89% battery health. So I'm going to be keeping down a battery indicator on the bottom of the screen so you guys can see how the iPhone XS Max does throughout the day. But now, let's get into this day in the life. Okay, so we've now made it into the city, and now I'll quickly talk about the design of the iPhone XS Max. And also just a quick check-in, it is currently 11:41 and our battery percentage is at 80%, which is not actually very good. But I'm hoping that we will be able to make it throughout the whole day without dying. But let's talk about the design of the iPhone XS Max, because when it was released in 2018, it was a pretty big iteration of the original 10, with the XS Max being the bigger version and having all those cool features that we already saw on the iPhone X. Even in 2024, I still think that the iPhone XS Max design still looks very clean and very aesthetic, even though it's a pretty thick bezels around the whole screen and we only have a dual camera layout, which looks pretty small compared to today's phones. I still remember back in the day, everyone used to complain about the camera sizes of these phones, but now today, no one really cares, with every single phone trying to come up with pretty much the biggest camera you can possibly fit onto the back of a phone. But I still think that this design is super clean, with the glass and stainless steel sandwich, with those nice rails going across the whole phone. It really makes this phone look super premium and looks really clean and aesthetic compared to other phones today. So that's my little second on the design. Let's keep going on with the day in the life. Welcome to the National Museum of New Zealand. Okay, so let's talk about the display of the iPhone XS Max, which is one of the biggest features on this phone. Now, what makes this phone really special is that out of all of the iPhone lineups back in 2018, only the 10s had the OLED display, which are far more superior than the LCD displays on the iPhone XR, which was launched alongside the XS. So with the Super Retina OLED display, we do get HDR10, Dolby Vision, and we also get 625 nits of peak brightness. At 6.5 inches with a pretty high resolution, you get about 458 pixels per inch, which is actually a really high pixel density compared to some other phones being released today. Because it is Super Retina, the OLED display on this XS Max is actually quite a bit more advanced than some of the OLED panels you see in today's market, which makes this panel really good even in 2024. Even though it's only 60Hz, you still get a really high touch sample rate, and using this for watching content, images, videos, everything looks pretty punchy and colorful on the XS Max. Oh, now obviously we still do have the notch at the top of the phone, and the bezels are a little bit thick in today's age. It has about an 84.8% screen to body ratio, which is not the worst, but it does make it look a little bit outdated compared to some of the newer phones on the market today. But we do still have one feature that was removed the next year, which was 3D touch, which I think is a really cool feature that Apple decided to discontinue on. It only gets up to a peak brightness of 625 nits, which isn't the brightest in today's age and might be a bit of a struggle while looking in direct sunlight. But other than that, I do think that it is pretty usable. So if the XS Max attracted you because of its 6.5-inch OLED display, it doesn't disappoint. Alright, I'm pretty hungry, so let's go and get some food. Okay, so it's currently 249. Our battery percentage is at 42%, which is draining quite consistently fast. But let's talk about cameras. Now we do have two cameras, which is the 12 megapixel main wide sensor and the 12 megapixel telephoto lens. Compared to last year's model, the camera differences on the XS is that we do have a larger sensor for the main wide camera, along with some smart HDR and depth control features, which allows you to have some better dynamic range and allows you to take some better portraits. Now taking a few photos in this weather, it's pretty gloomy and it's a bit dark, so the images don't look that great straight out of the camera, but it is a good challenge to see how well the sensor can cope with different lighting conditions. So taking a look at these images, we can see that the main wide sensor is pretty decent in most lighting conditions. It does capture some pretty good detail of the objects on the buildings. The colors look really good, but it does have a little bit of softness when you zoom into the images. You can see there's a bit of noise due to lack of lighting, but overall it does a pretty good job of being able to retain most of the image quality and details. We do only have 12 megapixels to work with, so compared to some newer phones today where they can go up to 48 or 50, the images aren't quite as high resolution as the competitors. But overall, most people don't actually use more than 12 megapixels, so I think that this setup is totally fine. Moving on to the telephoto lens. Telephoto lens is very similar to the main camera and takes pretty much the exact same images with the same colors, but with a little less detail. Telephoto sensor isn't quite as big as the main wide, and the aperture is a bit lower at 2.4 compared to 1.8, so we don't quite get as much details in lower lighting, and you can see there's a bit more noise and a bit more softness introduced when we zoom in. But overall, the camera setup is pretty decent. I wouldn't say it's anything special, and compared to other phones in 2024, it's about the same level. Maybe the telephoto is better than some other mid-range phones where the telephoto has been pretty much cut off. So at this price point, you're getting a pretty good telephoto and a pretty decent main wide camera out of the XS Max. Here's a test of the video using 4K on the iPhone XS Max. I don't think the optical image stabilization is as good on the XS Max, so when I walk around, I don't think it's as stable as the newer models. But overall, the image quality is pretty decent. The selfie camera is stuck at 7 megapixels, so you don't really get the best resolution selfies. I took a few selfies and they look decent, but nothing really noteworthy in 2024. And also, there were no ultra-wide lenses available on most of these phones launched at this time. So if you're looking for the ultra-wide lens, XS Max might not be the one for you. You're going to have to go to the 11 for that feature. Now I'm going to find a place to finish up working on my next video, which is coming out this Saturday. So let's keep going on with the day in the life.
setting my world on fire. Nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, risking it all on you. And I don't pretend to know how you feel. Either you won't or you will, but I'll give it a try. Even if you're too blind.
Okay, so I had to take a break from editing because I have to go to my team meeting at 6 p.m. sharp, so I have to go and catch the train soon. But before we go then, I need to talk about the performance of the iPhone XS Max. So on the iPhone XS Max, we are rocking the A12 bionic chip and 4GB of RAM. And so far throughout the whole day, I think the performance has been pretty solid. There hasn't been that many stutters or lags. There are some because it is an old phone, but overall, the performance has been pretty decent. I'm able to launch apps pretty quickly, and changing apps, going between Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, they all launch pretty reasonably quickly, and I don't have any complaints with the speed. Navigating the user interface is pretty smooth, and there isn't any bugs or anything that is really slowing down the phone. Now, we do have 4GB RAM, which isn't that much in 2024. I did notice that if I haven't used an app for maybe the last 10 minutes, it will reload again pretty consistently. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with the performance of the XS Max. Even launching the camera app, taking photos is no problem for it. And it actually performs a lot better than the iPhone XR, which I had done a video on, which actually crashed when I was using the camera app. Not too sure why, but I can tell you for sure that the XS Max does perform a lot better. Alright, I've got a train to catch, so I'll see you guys then. So just finished up the team meeting, just the financial year ending, so just all the numbers and things, but time to go home now. So my camera did not record audio as my left mic ran out of battery, but I'll explain what I was talking about from here. At 9:05, our battery percentage is at 1%, and checking our battery performance, we have a screen on of 3 hours and 12 minutes, ignoring the 10 minutes used while being plugged in. Our screen off usage, ignoring the background refresh while on charge, was about 1 hour, barely passing my day in the life today. Funnily enough, the 1% kept going for an extra 10 minutes without dying as I was recording the video and going through the battery performance. So you could say that the screen on time was 3 hours and 22 minutes. Either way, the performance of the battery is not that great and it's something to be aware of. Just keep in mind it has a battery health of 89%, so if you can find one closer to 100% or maybe replace the battery, you might get much better results than this. For battery performance, I give it a rating of C+. Moving on to the display, the OLED panel equipped on the XS Max still looks great, and although it has thick bezels and a big notch, the colors, contrast and overall picture quality is very good and even better than some displays found on mid-range phones today. However, it only has a 60Hz refresh rate and a peak brightness of 625 nits, which is why it gets a rating of B-. Camera-wise, the dual camera setup still shoots some very good images even compared to the newer mid-range phones released today. The main sensor is very capable in most lighting conditions and the telephoto is just as potent. Consistent colors, great dynamic range, and details are very good on the XS Max. Videos are also very high quality and might even beat out some of the mid-range phones you see today with 4K on both sensors. The selfie camera isn't anything special, stuck at 7 megapixels, but otherwise the dual camera setup deserves a B grade. Performance is very solid with the A12 bionic chip that still outperforms some of the new mid-range phones being released today. There was minimal stutters, lags and no crashes. The user experience and interface is very smooth, and while it did take some time to load apps and relaunch apps that haven't been used, the overall performance was very good. I was quite surprised that it outperformed the XR by a long mile, probably due to the extra amount of RAM. Finally, taking into consideration the design, software, storage, and RAM configurations, the XS Max gets a B grade for these features. Due to its timeless design, iOS 18 support, and the amount of 256GB configurations available on the used market. However, it is almost 6 years old and we don't have any 5G support if you are after that. Putting all of our calculations together, the XS Max gets a final grade of a B- in 2024. For a grade of B-, paying anything at or below $200 USD is a good choice. So there I have some my review on the iPhone XS Max. Hopefully this helped you with your purchasing decisions. I'm Upwards and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Are you